What's up, Raider Nation? Welcome to TRU Raider Podcast. I am your host, TRU Raider. Now, today what I want to talk about is, will the Las Vegas Raiders fire head coach Antonio Pierce? Now, at this time, it's Black Monday today. There is no word as of yet. There's several coaches who have already been fired. The Patriots head coach was fired yesterday after they won against the Buffalo Bills. Now, with that firing of the Patriots head coach Gerard Mayo, Mike Vrabel has been kind of like the front runner to be the Raiders' next head coach. He has a relationship with Brady. He played with Tom Brady on the New England Patriots. Mike Vrabel coached the Tennessee Titans for several years. He had a winning record, and he just did some consulting there with the Browns, and his contract is up. He already interviewed with the Bears and has already turned down that position. But now with the Patriots head coaching position opening up, it kind of changes things. It kind of makes things look like there's a pretty high possibility that Mike Vrabel might want to go over to the New England Patriots. I did also see a report where people are saying that Mike Vrabel changed his X picture. It was either X or Instagram to a picture of him in a New England Patriots jersey. So it's kind of telling. But according to Raider D Podcast, there is a meeting that's supposed to happen today between Mike Vrabel and Mark Davis. Now, that can't be an official interview because from my understanding, to hold an interview for a head coaching position, you have to have a vacancy at head coach, which would mean that Antonio Pierce would have to be fired. Now, it doesn't mean that they can't meet and have conversations. And I have a feeling if they come to a conversation which both sides agree, then we will catch some news today of Antonio Pierce being fired. Now, I want you guys to let me know in the comments, how do you feel about Antonio Pierce? Should we give him another year? You know, his contract, I believe, was 2 years, so he's done 1 year out of the two. Do we give AP a chance to move forward, get a better offensive coordinator, maybe secure a quarterback and see what he can do? Or are the Raiders better off moving on from AP, since right now, if we can upgrade a head coach, we do that and then kind of see where we build from there? You guys let me know in the comments. So my opinion is that if we can upgrade at head coach, then we must. If we can upgrade at quarterback, then we must. If we can upgrade at any position, then we must do so. Now, after all the cards fell and all the games have been played, the season is over. Right now, the Las Vegas Raiders are sitting at pick number 6. Because we lost to the Chargers, the Jets won. You know, there was a couple of things that moved around. And so right now, the Las Vegas Raiders are sitting at pick number 6, which kind of means that we're probably out of the running for a quarterback. Tennessee Titans are going to be picking first, which there was a report that came out that said that they are wanting to stick with Will Levis, but they have an opportunity to take a number 1 overall pick, and they might just decide to move on from Will Levis and go ahead and draft a quarterback. But if they do not, they're likely to take Travis Hunter. But then, you know, we got the Browns picking second. The Browns, they did restructure Deshaun Watson's contract, but I believe that that's to take away from his cap hit. I don't, you know, since they benched him and they've had this, you know, they're starting Zappy, they were starting Thompson Robinson. I don't think that they really want to move forward with Deshaun Watson. So Browns are probably going to take a quarterback. And then we also have the Giants, who are probably going to take a quarterback. So really, you know, as far as this whole talk about Shedeur Sanders, Mark Davis made it clear that he wants Shedeur Sanders. Tom Brady's been working with Shedeur Sanders in the off seasons. They have a good relationship. It's very clear that the Raiders would like to get Shedeur Sanders. Now, for us to be able to secure Shedeur Sanders, I don't know that that's going to be a possibility. I know Deion Sanders did talk about that, you know, when it comes to what team he lands on, that he doesn't want him to land in certain places. So really, with only probably two teams choosing a quarterback before us, there is a possibility that there's a fall or that we move up one or two spaces. I personally don't want to trade away any draft capital to get any of these quarterbacks this year, but we'll see what this ends up looking like. We'll see what the Raiders truly believe when it comes to this. But a lot of that is going to be dependent on what happens with our head coaching position. Now, Antonio Pierce, I guess it was last week, where he was asked about Aiden O'Connell and his future with the franchise. And what Antonio Pierce said is that he believes Aiden O'Connell will be a starting NFL quarterback. Now, he didn't say, I believe he'll start for the Raiders next year. He didn't say, a lot of things. But when he said that, it says a lot to what Antonio Pierce really feels about Aiden O'Connell, which is also very weird because there was a question that came up after the game yesterday against the Chargers where Antonio Pierce was asked, about the future moving forward with the Raiders and stuff like that. And he said, everybody sees a glaring need. And he didn't say a glaring need at QB. He didn't say a glaring need at offensive coordinator. He didn't say a glaring need to stay healthy. He just said a glaring need. Now, that glaring need, to most people looking at this situation, we're going to say that's quarterback. So if he's saying that in the press conference, is he really sold on Aiden O'Connell being a starter? He's saying a lot of things that kind of contradict himself. But the body language got really weird, right? Because they opened it up asking about, his position as a head coach moving forward. And he said no comment. He brushed it off. They asked a couple other pretty simple questions about Aiden O'Connell. They asked about Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers just passed 1,000 yards for the first time. So shout out to him. But then at the end, and it was maybe 3 minutes into the press conference, they asked him about if he has done enough to solidify himself as a head coach moving forward for the Raiders. And his body language got really awkward, and he said no comment, and you could tell he was pretty upset and basically almost stormed off of the press conference, what seemed to me to be a pretty abrupt time to end the press conference. It was very, very short for being the last press conference it was the last game of the season, So it was really, really weird to me. That's kind of telling. That tells me that he believes that he doesn't really stand a chance at having a job next year. Now, there are some rumors floating that basically if Antonio Pierce was able to come out with a convincing win against the Chargers, that he stood a better chance of having his job next year. And that was not the case. We did very well in the first half. But once Aiden O'Connell threw that interception with 38 seconds left to go in the first half, the Chargers came down and scored a touchdown after that and a 2-point conversion, which put them up by 7. And the whole momentum shifted towards the Chargers after that. The Chargers came out and just kind of stomped on us after that, So it was a huge momentum shift. And, after that happened, I don't know that there's really convincing evidence that Antonio Pierce is the guy for us moving forward. And I don't think that there's convincing evidence that Aiden O'Connell is the guy for us moving forward. Now, I know that Dan Campbell from the Lions, he only won 3 games in his first year with the Lions, and Antonio Pierce won 4 games in his first official year as head coach. So a lot of people have the argument that Antonio Pierce could pull Dan Campbell, get the right pieces in place, and really pull this thing together, which I believe is a possibility. And then there's the other side of things where people are saying, look, his record is pretty much the exact same as Josh McDaniels. Why are we going to hold on to him? Now, while Antonio Pierce did a much better job of culture, he's building culture, whereas Josh McDaniels destroyed culture. There's a lot of things as a head coach that Antonio Pierce just really fell short at. And it felt like he had a short leash and he wasn't really trusted with a whole lot of things, at least especially early on in the season when it came to things like Gardner Minshew. And really, we haven't gotten... I haven't been able to find the official information on who was responsible for Luke Getsy getting hired as offensive coordinator. And I would love to find that information. And if any of you guys have been able to find that information, please put a link in the comments. I want to check this out, because if Antonio Pierce is responsible for Luke Getsy's hire, he definitely needs to go, because that was an awful decision. But if it was Tom Telesco, then we have a different conversation of what are we doing at GM, because Tom Telesco did a very good job with Brock Bowers, Jackson Powers Johnson, DJ Glaze. I'm really happy with the draft. And as we've seen, with the Chargers, now that they have a solid coach in Jim Harbaugh and a roster that was primarily built by Tom Telesco, that team is looking really, really good. So if we get proper pieces in place when it comes to coaching, coordinators, things like that, a quarterback, what would this team really look like with the likes of Tom Telesco drafting? You guys let me know. It could be, but that, shortly after this video uploads, we get more breaking news about, if Antonio Pierce gets fired or if they commit to him. As soon as I get any news like that, I will be putting out another video. Like always, I love you, nation. I'll catch you on the next one.